Good morning, world.
Good morning.
So today, we're going to talk about how the best female athletes have penises.
And also, we're going to talk about President Biden's
Omicron and the Winter of Death.
Coming up next. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian, and this is Cedric and Brian. That's right, we have two topics and a comment at the end, and we could be reading your comment at the end, so stay tuned. But first, are you prepared?
Like Brian says, are you prepared? Do you have enough food, water, and other essentials to get you through tough times? If not, check out My Patriot Supply. They're the nation's #1 preparedness company, and they've served millions of American families just like yours. Right now, you can save 25% off their popular 4-week emergency food kit, which will keep you well fed for 4 weeks worth of breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, and snacks, totaling over 2,000 calories a day. This food stays fresh for up to 25 years in proper storage, so it will be there when you need it. In fact, you may need it a lot sooner than that.
So don't wait. Go to www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. That's www.preparewithcedricandbrian.com. All right, so
You gotta be prepared because the winter of death is coming.
that's right, I know, especially for the unvaccinated. But as you know, I just got over COVID, so I have natural immunity.
Yes.
That's a thing, you know.
Yes, it's true. But let's talk about that later. Let's get into Lia Thomas. That didn't sound right. Let's talk about Lia Thomas, formerly known as Will Thomas.
Is that what it was, Will?
Yes.
So what I want to know is,
Big Willie.
how did she break all of those records?
Well, she's a guy, so...
I was wondering, I was asking Cedric, I said, when did men start competing as women? And Cedric sent me this
It's
clip.
not a him, it's a her.
Why, you're suggesting that I partner up with an elderly woman?
Real quick, for those who don't know, that is a former NBA player, Larry Johnson. He had a alter ego called Grandmama, and that's so he put on the dress. But the thing about it, me and Brian were talking about, is that when you looked at something like that, it was comical. It's like there's no way in the world that could happen.
It doesn't really relate to what we're talking about because Grandmama didn't go through the 1 year of testosterone suppression therapy that you must do to be able to compete as a man against women.
Right.
And unlike Lia Thomas, right?
Thomas.
Lia Thomas, who did do that, and you can tell that that therapy worked really well because in no way does Lia Thomas look or sound like a man.
Complications I expected. We expected there would be some measure of pushback by people, quite to the extent it has blown up. We weren't fully expecting, but we were expecting that. We expected my speed and strength and endurance would drop significantly and have adjusted for that. I think those are some of the expected things we've been able to account for.
I got two things. He goes to the Joe Biden School of Speech Making because it was pretty much incoherent. And he's a UPenn student. UPenn, for those of you who don't know, that's like Harvard. That's an Ivy League school. So maybe they lower the standards for swimmers. I don't know.
Must have skipped that speech class in freshman year.
But he kept jumping around. I thought I was listening to Joe Biden.
You know what I think a lot of that is? I think a lot of it is that he doesn't believe it.
Yeah. And he
So
said,
he's struggling
over and over.
Yeah, because he's trying to convince himself that what he's doing is right and what's correct.
For those of you who don't know, he swam as on the men's team for 3 years.
Right.
And then decided he took a year off because he had to do the hormone, the testosterone suppression therapy. But again, and you'll see, I'm going to bring up a picture here. I mean, it doesn't matter how much therapy you go to suppress your hormones, it's not going to get rid of his size, what looks like size 12 foot. You know,
Those are
when
like
you're in the
fins
water.
in the water.
Yeah. And his shoulders are, I mean, look at his arms. I mean, broader than both of our shoulders because swimmers have broad shoulders. This is what makes it just not fair. For those who want to call us transphobic, what I just don't get it with the women's movement and what was the title something in sports?
Title IX.
Title IX. Make women's sports so that women can compete in sports and not have to compete against men. And now we've got this disaster, and people are they're saying it. We're the bad guys.
No, we're not the bad guys.
When Lia's teammates, I don't want to offend anybody. When Lia is swimming, they're like cheering Lia on. But then behind the scenes, we have this. We're going to put this right here. This is one of the Penn swimmers. When I have kids, I kind of hope they're all boys, because if I have any girls that want to play sports in college, good luck. Their opponents are still all going to be biological men saying they're women. Right now, we have one. But what if we have 3 on the team? There'd be 3 less girls competing. And it's so true. And we did a story about 6 months ago.
5 months ago.
Yeah. And it was track and field. And there was 2 boys competing against the girls, and they were winning every race. And it's just...
and there's been a lot of talk. I mean, if Lia's going to continue to compete, I say that people have been talking about the fact that he's going to come in first. And they understand that. How can you not come in first? But then the applause comes when whoever comes in second is the actual winner. That's when the applause starts. I see nothing wrong with that because it's not fair. This isn't a woman winning the race. It is a man competing against women. And it's weird because I know they're trying to say that we're transphobic and you're racist and all the things that every time you speak out against something, the left is saying, well, you're just not being progressive enough. Anytime, we've talked about this numerous times, anytime you start hearing the words inclusive or equity or diversity, look out because someone's about to get shafted. And it's usually the people who are on the side of truth.
This all goes back to Caitlyn Jenner claims that he's a Republican or conservative. I don't know. But he accepted the Woman of the Year award, right? Right. When he knows doggone well he's not a woman. I mean, he can put on a dress, he can grow his hair out long, go on hormone therapy, but he just took that spot, which wasn't even sports, away from whoever would have been Woman of the Year. So this has been going on for a while. But when it comes to sports, it's getting more widespread, and it's not fair. And I don't know why more women... If I was the other team, I think they played against Cornell in this one, another Ivy League school. Why didn't the girls on that team just say, we're not swimming? Why bother?
I think they want to, but we talked about this just about 2 minutes ago. The reason a lot of the girls on the Penn State team were cheering and saying, yay, go Lia, you're awesome, you're incredible, you're great, because they know that after college ends, their career as a swimmer pretty much ends as it does with a lot of women athletics. And so the next logical step for them is to get a job in sportscasting, in the sports booth with ESPN or CBS or some other affiliate. And they know that if they speak out against this stuff, their chance of obtaining a good job in that industry is pretty much shot.
Yeah.
So they have to play the game in order to secure their future in broadcasting.
Yeah. It's all part of cancel culture. And speaking of cancel culture, and I have to say, and I know that J.K. Rowling, who is the author of all of the Harry Potter, I mean, she was the darling of women's lib. She's a women's rights activist. Well, a few years ago, she came out and said men are men and women are women, basically, and she was called transphobic and everything.
For speaking the truth.
So she comes out, and and we always reference the book 1984 by George Orwell. Brilliant book. So she comes out, and we'll put this tweet up here, and this has to do with what they were doing in Scotland is they were putting biological men in women's prison if they said that they identified as women. And surprise, surprise, these biological men started raping the women inmates. And when they did that, though, they said, the headlines would be, women raped by other women in jails, when it wasn't women, it was men. So J.K. Rowling comes out and she says, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance is strength. The penised individual who raped you is a woman. And of course, she's getting all kinds of blowback. But those first 3 are from George Orwell's 1984. And that's part of doublespeak. And
well, it is. Look at the first 3 words. The penised individual.
Yeah.
Right there. That tells you it's a man.
Well, yeah, we used to call that a man.
Right. but now the penis individual that raped you is a woman.
Yeah. So, of course, here's the blowback. from people. It said these are the people that are calling her transphobic. You literally have a castle and you spend your time doing this, and it's like, well, yeah, good for her, because she's standing up for women. These women are getting raped by men who call themselves women, and one of the I think it's one of them here. Here it is. The vast majority of sexual assaults are committed by men who don't identify as anything other than men. Perhaps you might consider using your public profile to combat this instead. Well, everybody's against rape. What she's saying is this rape is happening in women's prisons because they're letting men in. And it's why I just scratch my head whenever I read things from people on the far left. And this trans issue is just over the top. Yeah.
Well, J.K. Rowling, I'll say this real quick, and I'm speaking as someone, just brag a little bit. I had two twin daughters who achieved great things in college soccer. They were both named to the school's decade team. There isn't a guy who was a third stringer that couldn't mop the field with either one of my daughters, no matter how great they succeeded. But I think what we're really trying to fight for isn't women's sports. We're trying to fight for what's true. And it just so happens it's undergirded by what's going on in women's sports, but it's just the truth. And the left is trying to make us convinced that something's wrong with us when that is not the case.
What do you guys think? Maybe we're wrong. Let us know if we're wrong. If you think it's okay just because somebody takes some hormone therapy for a year, that they can go ahead as a man and compete against women. Now we're going to move on to our next subject.
Omicron
is out there and it's just killing people just slewing people by the thousands.
Due to the steps we've taken, Omicron has not yet spread as fast as it would have otherwise done.
So again, how does he know that? And he's hedging his bets here because you'll see later he talks about how it's coming anyway. Mm-hmm. So he's saying he did all the right things to slow it down, yet it's going to come barreling at us. So
because he's not following the science, he's following the scientist, Lord Fauci.
He's following the teleprompter is what he's following.
But it's here now, and it's spreading, and it's going to increase. For unvaccinated, we are looking at a winter of severe illness and death for unvaccinated.
All right, so again.
So why was Maxine Waters just on a plane just a few days ago without a mask?
She's vaccinated. He's talking about the unvaccinated. But here's where, they don't follow the science. And we can go over Israel. We can go over all these countries that are 90% vaccinated. Their hospital rates are rising. So he's going to come on in a little bit and lie and say, well, it's going to lower your chance of getting sick or dying. Well, then why are the hospitals filled? And on that matter, I'm going to go over in a little bit that there's more deaths in 2021 than there was in 2020 when this thing was new. We didn't know how to treat it, didn't have a vaccine. Now we have a vaccine. We know how to treat it, but they won't let us tell anybody how to treat it. And there's more deaths. So,
for themselves, their families, and the hospitals they'll soon overwhelm.
Okay, so like I said, I alluded to, the death toll in 21 is higher than the death toll in 20. And then I just want to show you a couple of these graphs.
Isn't this the same man who said he was going to put an end to the vaccine after he got
to the virus? Yeah.
After he got in office?
Oh, we're going to get to that.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that was his whole debate thing with Trump.
But there's good news. If you're vaccinated and you have your booster shot, you're protected from severe illness and death. Period.
Period.
Was that period a punctuation mark? Or was that him saying, I'm done talking?
Yeah.
Because he flubs a lot and just reads whatever. You know when you're an actor or an actress and you read the stage directions you're not supposed to? Biden does that a lot.
Yeah. End quote. Okay, so again, I just go back. Then why have more died this year, President Biden? And why did Israel, the most vaccinated country, see a rise in hospitalizations? So again, it's. I know he's just reading, so I don't know if it's him that believes this, if he even knows what he's saying on there. But whoever's writing for him, it's just part of this propaganda that's been going on and on and on and on and on. And I'm getting tired of it.
Number 2, booster shots work. 3, boosters are free, safe, and convenient.
So 2 and 3 had to do with boosters.
Yes.
And then again, how do they know they're safe? There's some reports out that, and I'm not trying to spread misinformation, but some people are wondering about how this vaccine is going to affect people in 3 years. I don't know where they came up with the number 3 years. Again, this could just be false information out there again. But he does not know if the vaccine or the boosters are safe in the long run because we don't have the data.
Well, no one knows.
And according to Pfizer, they don't have to release it, for 55 years or 75 years, whatever the stupid timeline was.
We'll be gone by then.
I know. I mean, we won't care. But people accuse us of false information and propaganda. But he's just reading something that was given to him that really has no basis in science or fact. I know we alluded to this, so Cedric wanted to know, what did Biden say back when he was candidate Biden? So here's candidate Biden.
As president, the first step I will take will be to get control of the virus that has ruined so many lives. Because I understand something this president hasn't from the beginning. We will never get our economy back on track. We will never get our kids safely back in schools. We'll never have our lives back until we deal with this virus.
So
He seems a lot more lively then.
that was before the pressure of the presidency. And he was a whole year younger.
But whatever drugs he's taking now is just slowing him down and slowing his speech down.
Yeah, so again, if you look at these stats, Joe, you promised you'd get this under control. There's more deaths under your watch than under that dastardly Donald Trump.
But that's because of people like me and you who are unvaccinated.
Yeah, exactly. That's what they'll say. Although everybody was unvaccinated in 2020.
Right.
So go figure. Go figure the logic. It's left logic.
If I'm your president, on day one, we'll implement the national strategy I've been laying out since March. We'll put politics aside. We'll take the muzzle off our experts so the public gets the information they need and deserve. Honest, unvarnished truth. They can handle it.
So here's the unvarnished, what did he say?
Unvarnished
Honest truth or something. And we can handle it. Those of you who are more than 2 years old, remember that monoclonal antibodies were around when Trump was president. President Trump got the monoclonal antibodies, and he was 74 years of age when he got it, and he survived. In fact, I think he was back on tour, back out doing his talks with the press, like within 3 or 4 days.
Yeah.
So, Joe, how come you're not talking about the monoclonal antibodies that have been around since before the vaccines? Where's that truth? With him, it's just vaccine, 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 booster, booster, booster. And we know, and if you followed my journey through COVID that we did a couple weeks ago on how I survived, just like Joe Rogan, I did the monoclonal antibodies. But guess what? I also did the horse dewormer. I did the zinc. I did a bunch of things. And if you go to the FLCCC website, their track record on survivability from this on all age groups is much better than the national average. And you know why? Because they're treating early. They're not just telling people, go get a vaccine, and then when you get it, let us know when you can't breathe again.
Right.
Early treatment is how you save people.
You gotta come with a new lie, Left. You gotta come with a brand new lie. This one's getting old for everybody.
Our current president has failed in his most basic duty to the nation. He's failed to protect us. He's failed to protect America. And my fellow Americans, that is unforgivable.
It is unforgivable, Joe, because there's more
Mr.
deaths under
President.
your watch.
You can't call him Joe.
Sorry, Mr. President. You said it. You said it. It's unforgivable. And there's many more deaths under your watch than there was under Trump. And guess what? The virus was new under Trump. We didn't know what the heck was going on. You took office and you already had the rollout of vaccines, yet deaths are higher under your watch. So what are you going to say to Joe from 2020 during the campaign trail? What are you going to tell that Joe? Because obviously you failed, and it is unforgivable, in your words.
End of quote.
We needed to look back because that clip didn't age well for President Joe Biden. But let's compare and contrast with my favorite country that we talked about way back then. And it's because, Americans, we like the underdog. Everybody's ragging on Sweden back in the day, right? So let's look at this graph. There's the daily deaths in Sweden. Okay? They're the ones who let all the young people go back to school and go back to work, and they sheltered their most vulnerable, the elderly.
Yeah.
Okay, so they basically let the rest of society go out. I'm sure they're doing good on vaccines there again, but as we see from Israel, vaccine doesn't mean less cases, and now we know it doesn't mean less deaths.
Didn't former Governor Andrew Cuomo shelter the elderly as well?
Yeah, he sheltered him in place with the virus. So there's Sweden, and there is the United States, and I'll put them right here, one on top of the other. Who do you think's doing better, Joe? I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Mr. President.
So again, all this fake news, to use Trump's term. I'm sorry, President Trump.
President Trump.
I can't say Joe and Trump.
No.
No, I don't have that
It's
privilege.
disrespectful.
But as an American citizen, I have the right. It says so right here in the
Oh
table.
my goodness.
We're not doing anything any better than anybody else. President Biden has not done anything better than anybody else. Don't let him fool you. Now they just want to scare you into getting the jab again because we know this whole thing is about lining the pockets of Big Pharma. Otherwise, why aren't they not letting... There's a new antidepressant that's out that's cost $10 treatment. It's an old drug, fluoxamine, I think.
Yes.
They're showing basically nobody dies if they give this to people with COVID early. $10 treatment. And he always wants to say, like President Biden said there early, boosters are free. They're not free. They're coming out of that $3 trillion that he's proposing again and the trillions of dollars they're spending and printing every day. Where fluoxamine, ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine actually are cheap. You pay $10, your copay, your insurance covers it. Whatever the case may be, it's a cheap drug. And it's a damn shame.
It's a damn shame.
This is an endemic virus. Endemic means it's just going to be with us.
Yeah.
So you either learn how to live with it like a cold, because remember, I think in South Africa, 1 death from Omicron, yet we're sounding the alarm bells here. So you can either decide to live your life in fear and just get booster after booster after booster, or you can just say, this is a virus, it's going to mutate. Each time it's mutating, it seems to be a little less threatening. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this Omicron will spread through and just not really kill anybody. If it does, it doesn't look like it's going to kill any more than what a common flu would kill. And we do not mask up and we do not force people to take a vaccine for the common flu. Life has risks.
Yes.
And it's not a life if you just spend, and I know people that spend their whole life for the last year and a half, 2 years now, in their apartment or in their home, not leaving. That is not a life. Yeah. And then, like I told you, my wife ended up catching it when we weren't out and about doing stuff.
Okay, about 5 months ago, we did a video on that whole situation in Los Angeles where there was a transgender person inside the spa.
Yeah.
So we did that from 5 months ago. And this is from a gentleman named Mon Jarkis. Mon, if you're watching today, I think you left about 15 comments on that same video. I haven't responded to any of them, but we're going to respond to this one right here because this is succinct and it's really applicable to what we talked about today. He wrote, "Loved this video. Ask yourself, why would you want to say you are not what you obviously are?" I love simple statements like that. You don't need to pontificate and talk about it for long periods of time. Why would you admit you're something you are, but you're not it?
Yeah.
Why would you admit that?
Like
Thank
a walrus.
Matt Walsh, thank you.
Walsh.
Shout out to Matt Walsh. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell, and share our channel with everyone you know. Until next time, continue being good to each other. I'm Cedric.
And I'm Brian. We'll see you later.
Thank you.